What an awesome trip diving with Rodney Fox Expeditions and Research to look at great white sharks off the coast of South Australia. It was a Christmas present from my lovely wife, who's taken to giving me peak experiences rather than things. It's a gift I really value, to be able to create lasting memories as opposed to clutter life up with more stuff. Going with Rodney Fox and his team was a true delight. Their focus on research and their knowledge of the great whites' behaviour and habits and movements meant that it was so much more than just an experience of looking at the sharks. It was also an opportunity to learn about them and to see them in their natural habitat. They're one of the few crews that has a bottom diving cage, and so each day consisted of a dive in the surface cage, like the footage shown here, to see sharks actually feeding at the surface, and then later in the day we would head down to the bottom, depths between 15 and 25 metres, to actually watch the sharks in their element, cruising around at depth. There was lots of other fish life as well, so you can see here these little trevally on some dives were so thick that it was actually quite difficult to see the sharks. And then on other dives, the sharks were right up close and personal. We got a chance to look at them both in how they interact with each other and also how they interact with the cage. Despite some of these being super females in excess of 5.5 metres long, the sharks were really quite placid, just cruising around, looking at the cage quite close. We were circled many times, and then also cruising around away from the cage as well. There were many sharks in view for a lot of the time. The Fox crew knew how to find them and also where they would be. It was truly an experience. There were so many other elements of sea life as well, but the sharks were really the thing, and everywhere you looked, more appeared. The amount of times that there was a shark literally just over your shoulder that you didn't see, and at times 2 or more sharks in view. Several of them came up to the cage and mouthed it gently or bumped it, just to almost like puppies exploring with their teeth. But the vast majority of their behaviour was really literally just cruising around and looking at us. There were a few moments with a larger shark where she was really getting stuck into the cage, and that was quite unusual behaviour in terms of how these sharks deal with the bottom cage. But nonetheless, part of what they're able to do, it really demonstrated both the size and the power of the sharks, to see them so close and so nimble. Like this big female here, absolutely going for it. And it needs to be said that this was literally only a couple of minutes of interaction with the shark in what was hours of diving. Most of the time her interactions were much more gentle. You can see here on subsequent passes that she's much less intent and seems to be just scoping us out. It was unknown whether she was interested in the smell of the burley from the cage or whether she was attempting to get us out of the middle, but either way she was an absolutely awe-inspiring sight. So much power, so well built for what she does as a high-end predator in the ocean. The reason the sharks are attracted here is that there's a large seal colony that basically is pupping at this time of year, and the large sharks come in to feed on the seals as they're learning to swim around the bottom of the ocean. This was probably the only moment in all the dives where I felt a little bit nervous, the shark actually having a chew on the cable attaching our cage to the boat. But when all was said and done, the operation was extremely safe with multiple backup plans. if you're thinking about shark diving, I couldn't recommend Rodney Fox and his team highly enough. It was wonderful to be on board a liveaboard boat and to spend the time looking at sharks up close and personal the way that we were able to. And really, when you get people saying that it's some of the best diving that they've done, there were a number of times that I literally felt like a kid coming up from dives, just absolutely in awe and wonder of what we'd seen, and laughing and cavorting like a child. It was really, really spectacular. This really says it all.
That was, I think we all got a love fight.
Yeah.
Oh my god. That is probably up there as one of my best.